Touring coupes tend to straddle the realm between luxury and sport, and were far from a new concept in the early 1960s, but were traditionally little more than a body style. The Chrysler 300 wasn't even that, really just a performance version of the standard Chrysler, at least up until 1963 with the 300J, the year the non-letter series would be introduced. A steal at $3,400, 25,300s were sold, including 400 of the 300J. They were 216 inches long on a 122-inch wheelbase and weighed more than 4,200 pounds, with a base 6.3-liter 383 and an optional 6.8-liter 413. The 300J's 413 wedge produced 390 horsepower and 485 pound-feet of torque. It could do nearly 130 miles an hour, got to 60 in just over 7 seconds, and did the quarter mile in just over 15. Perhaps Pontiac's smaller, lighter Grand Prix of 1962 fit the bill a bit closer, only 212 inches long on a 120-inch wheelbase, weighing 4,000 pounds. Prices started around $3,500, and sales were just over $30,000. And the 6.5-liter 389 cubic inch V8 was available in 303 horsepower, 425 pound-feet of torque 4-barrel, or with a 348 horsepower, 430 pound-foot of torque tri-power. A tri-power 4-speed car could reach nearly 145 miles an hour, get to 60 in under 6 seconds, and do a 14.5-second quarter mile. Buick was a bit slower to offer a dressed-up standard, not introducing the Wildcat until 1963, although it was available in other body styles than coupe, starting at a reasonable $3,900, with sales just over $25,000. It was 216 inches long on a 123-inch wheelbase, weighing easily more than 4,000 pounds. Initially with a 6.6-liter 401 with 325 horsepower and 445 pound-feet of torque, for a 0 to 60 of just over 7 seconds, a high 15-second quarter mile, and a top speed of 120. Oldsmobile's Starfire was originally a specialty convertible version of the 88 series, but by 1962 the trim was applied to a coupe as well, and Oldsmobile was calling it a Grand Tourer. Olds sold roughly 42,000 of the $4,100 car, which used a 6.5-liter 394 cubic inch V8 with 345 horsepower and 440 pound-feet of torque. It was 214 inches long on a 123-inch wheelbase, weighing 4,300 pounds, resulting in a top speed over 120, an 8.5-second 0 to 60, and a 16.5-second quarter mile. Ford redefined the personal luxury coupe in America with the 1958 Thunderbird, which got an extensive restyle for 1961, which was 205 inches long on a 113-inch wheelbase and weighed 4,300 pounds. Costing $4,200, it was powered by a 6.4-liter 390 with 300 horsepower and 425 pound-feet of torque for an 8.5-second 0 to 60, a low 16-second quarter mile, and a top speed near 130. 73,000 sold for the year. Its first direct competitor would be the Buick Riviera, introduced in 1963. Similarly priced at $4,200, 40,000 were made. It was 208 inches long on a 117-inch wheelbase and weighed 4,200 pounds. It could be had with a 6.6-liter 401 with 325 horsepower and 445 pound-feet of torque, or a 7-liter 425 with 340 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. The more powerful version would do 120 miles an hour, a mid-16-second quarter mile, and 60 in under 8 seconds. Studebaker replaced the Hawk GT with the Avanti of 1963, much more expensive at $4,400. It was perhaps closer to the traditional personal coupe, only 193 inches long on a 109-inch wheelbase, and weighing 3,300 pounds. The 4.7-liter 289 jet thrust V8 had 240 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque, or you could get the optional supercharger for 289 horsepower and 370 pound-feet of torque. The supercharged R2 could do the quarter mile in under 15 seconds, a rare option on a car with a total production of just over 3,800. In concept, the touring coupe was not isolated to the U.S., but in practice, other interpretations were much different. In Britain, the Ford Consul Capri was called a personal coupe, at only 171 inches long on a 99-inch wheelbase and weighing 2,100 pounds. Initially offered with a 1.3-liter inline 4 with 57 horsepower and 76 pound-feet of torque, There was a later GT version with a 78 horsepower, 91 pound-foot of torque, 1.5 liter. Top speed was near 90, and it could do a 19.5 second quarter mile and get 31 miles per gallon. With a starting price just over 900 pounds, just over 19,000 were sold. The Alvis TD21 was made until 1963, with a little over 1,000 being made. It was 198 inches long on a 112-inch wheelbase and weighed 3,400 pounds and could be had for less than 3,000 pounds. Using a 3-liter straight 6 with 117 horsepower and 163 pound-feet of torque, 60 came in under 13 seconds. It did a 19-second quarter mile, topped out around 105, and got 17 miles per gallon. Bentley's S2 Continentals were coach-built, with just over 300 made. Prices could exceed 8,000 pounds. Typically around 213 inches long on a 123-inch wheelbase, weight was easily 4,600 pounds. Its 6.2-liter, 380 cubic inch V8 had 185 horsepower and 339 pound-feet of torque for a top speed of 110 miles an hour. 0 to 60 just over 12 seconds, and an 18.5 second quarter mile. The Bristol 407 of 1961 to 1963 cost just over 5,000 pounds and got 15 miles per gallon. It was 199 inches long on a 114-inch wheelbase, weighing 3,700 pounds, and used a Chrysler-sourced 5.1-liter 313 cubic inch poly or semi-Hemi V8 with 250 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque. For a top speed near 115 miles an hour, a 0 to 60 of 8.5 seconds, and a quarter mile of 16.5. In France, the Fossil 2 was called a luxury GT. Smaller than it looked, it was 187 inches long on a 105-inch wheelbase, weighing 3,600 pounds. Using a Chrysler 6.3-liter 383 V8 with 390 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque, it could do a 5.5 second 0 to 60, a sub-14 second quarter mile, and exceed 150 miles an hour. From Germany, the Mercedes-Benz 300 SE was introduced in 1962, eventually making 2,400 coupes and 700 convertibles. It was 192 inches long on a 108-inch wheelbase and weighed 3,600 pounds. The 3-liter 6 produced 170 horsepower, good for 60 in just over 12 seconds, and a top speed of 115. BMW had the 3200 CS, which was bigger than it looked at 190 inches long on a 112-inch wheelbase and weighing 3,300 pounds. The 3.2-liter, 193 cubic inch V8 had 182 horsepower and 177 pound-feet of torque for speeds of 120 miles an hour, 60 in just over 9 seconds, and a 17-second quarter mile. Italy had the Lancia Flaminia Coupe, really just a two-door version of their big car. Not really all that common outside the U.S. It upgraded to a 2.8-liter in mid-1962 with 138 horsepower and 163 pound-feet of torque. The 184-inch long coupe was on a 108-inch wheelbase and weighed close to 3,400 pounds. 60 took just under 12 seconds, the quarter mile just over 18, and top speed was a little above 110. Fiat also made a coupe version of their executive 2300 sedan, including a more powerful S version. It was 182 inches long on a 104-inch wheelbase and weighed 2,900 pounds. The 2.3-liter inline 6 had 115 horsepower and 136 pound-feet of torque, or, with dual carbs, 148 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque, for a low 18-second quarter mile and speeds over 115 miles an hour. Few of these cars were marketed as plain touring cars, some as GTs or Grand Touring, but most as personal coupes. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment below and like and subscribe.